Good evening, everyone. I'm going to give a talk now that I gave at the Theosophical Society European Congress last week. It was a nice week. We all got together and I think we all formed a bond. Some bonds were formed in silence, some in words. And many things are going to come to the surface over the next few months. I can guarantee that to everybody. So the talk is the great heresy of separateness that weans us from the rest. And it's going to be a share screen talk. So let's find the share screen. There we are. Let's start at the beginning because that's the best place to start, in my opinion. So the great heresy that weans us from the rest. In this world where complexity rules, it seems we are moving further and further away from simplicity. One of my favourite quotes from Sri Shankaracharya states that our minds can be lost in a labyrinth of words, like a man in a thick forest. So has our obsession with complexity made us any better as human beings? Or has it had the effect of dehumanizing us as a society? As long as our minds are trapped by the glitter of the outer world of mechanical toys, we will never discover who or what we really are. It is true that advances in technology can serve us in many positive ways, but we must be careful that the slave does not usurp the master. As our minds are filled more and more with trivia, we may lose sight of the deeper feelings that lie within the heart of the aspirant to a higher wisdom. This immersion in the outer world clutters the mind so that the light of true divinity is unable to pierce the thick clouds we have created by a limited view of the world and of ourselves within that world. Do we even know what true love is when disentangled from lust, sentimentality, and emotionalism? That the world is in such a sorry state is a result of the great dire heresy of separateness that weans us from the rest. As the voice of the silence, translated by H.P. Blavatsky, tells us, the unifying idea and inspiration is that we all share the same spirit. We are all one in essence. Orthodox Islam and Christianity in particular attempt to win over converts to their particular religions, therefore reinforcing this heresy of separateness. We need to come to realize that the same divinity animates Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, Jews, pagans, agnostics, and atheists. Coming to an awareness of this fact is the only thing that can manifest a true universal brotherhood of humanity. And it is this and this alone that can save the world from sinking deeper into the delusions that prevent us from becoming what we are in reality. The world that materialism has produced is not capable of revealing to us anything more than that which pertains only to the transitory personal self. This obsession consumes us so much that most of us live out this life believing that we are here in this particular body forever. All of our time consists in pandering to the personal self, feeding it, clothing it, bringing up children, building a nest, etc., which is all very much centered upon the animal nature. To really come alive and awaken to the fact that we are truly spiritual beings with infinite potential, we must start to think of ourselves as much more than the physical. We must begin to see beyond the masks that we wear. That creates the illusion that we are separate from everyone else. If we can do this, we will experience the world with a greater clarity of vision and therefore become aware of the insanity that this great dire heresy causes. This does not mean that we should abandon the things of the world. and neglect our families and social duties, what we should do is to look at the bigger picture and realise what our priorities are once we start to act and think as immortal beings. What does this mean as regards our relationship with others, individually and globally? What does it tell us about the way we should treat our planet and all the flora and fauna upon it? You see, the word mask is developed from the Latin word persona, which means a mask. And this also refers to the personality, of course. So the personality is masking something, and the people who thought of that word and that idea must have known it was masking something. So the worldview that we have is incredibly blinkered. Not many people are aware of the insanity that spreads throughout the collective consciousness of mankind. Ideas and actions that are harmful to ourselves and the environment are considered normal by the standards of modern day morality. And those ideas and actions that are beneficial to ourselves and the environment are looked upon as impractical and in some cases insane. So one of my favourite sayings by Plato is, "Heaven sent madness is preferable to man-made sanity." Because to appear to be sane in this particular society, one must follow certain rules and regulations, usually made by people who have no idea about spirituality. So we are educated at school, by the media, etc., to act and think in certain ways, to be regarded as being sane, even though these particular ways may not be sane in the light of the spirit. Now, heaven-sent madness is intuition, spiritual intuition, which to most people in the world, to the man and woman in the street, will be regarded as being madness. If you act in a certain way, under the guidance and inspiration of your spirit, it will be regarded as madness because you do things that are completely different than what most people do. Think in a way almost opposite in many ways. And that's a good test that you're progressing on the spiritual path. So you're acting more and more under the aegis or the guidance of your divine nature. And acting and thinking in ways that other people cannot really comprehend or understand. Not all the time, of course. I mean, you have to live in the world. The old saying, to be in the world but not of it. But certainly you see the world in a different way, a much different way. So it's a topsy-turvy world, and we must be more than grateful to those individuals and groups that are working hard on many different levels to help us all onto a greater appreciation of our spiritual and social responsibilities towards our planet and all that lives upon it. It is impossible to envisage all the beneficial effects that a realization of our oneness with all things will bring to us. We can at least be certain that it will transform our view of the world and all that is part of it. The short-sighted view of the world leads to an obsession with accumulating wealth and the fact that we only remain here in this particular personality for a few decades. It's only a short stay. We're only visiting this planet. We're only passing through. People will cheat, lie, steal, and even kill to obtain money to regale the transitory self, unaware of the workings of karma and reincarnation, which will eventually bring them to a point where they will be forced to face the consequences of their actions. The masters, the theosophical masters, stated that they wanted a brotherhood of humanity, a real universal fraternity started. That was the reason that the Theosophical Society was brought into being, not to revel merely in intellectual luxury and the accumulation of facts, not to be caught up in the dead letter, nor just to preach to the converted. So what can heal us, reanimate us? What can make us remember what we truly are in essence? Again, another quote from Plato: all learning is merely recollection. All true learning, of course, true spiritual learning, we are remembering. There's a word, anamnesis, which means soul memory. And amnesia, of course, is the opposite, it's forgetting. The Zen master Bankei said that we don't have to become Buddha, we just have to remain Buddha, because we're already there but not aware. We're already enlightened, but we're not aware of it. We have to wake up. Most people are asleep spiritually. We have to wake up, become aware, realize what we are, not what we will become, but what we are. In the voice of the silence, there's another sentence that says, look inward, thou art Buddha. It doesn't say look inward, thou will become Buddha. It says look inward, thou art Buddha. You are Buddha. That's very interesting. All true learning is merely recollection. It is seeing that multiplicity is an illusion, that behind the countless mass we were, there is just one being, one reality. You see, what we think we are is just a creation of the environment we live in. The education system, the media, all mould us into something that is envisaged by others, who on the whole have no real understanding of spirituality. It's their vision based on materiality. They want everyone to become that. So we don't live spontaneously under the guidance of our higher self. Orthodoxy attempts to turn us into automatons. We lose sight of the beauty of life, of the beauty that lies at the heart of the universe, and in each one of our hearts collectively and individually. We have this great, wonderful beauty in our hearts. It just needs to come out. It just needs to open like a flower. So we must open the eye of the spirit and see the world as it really is, not as we are made to see it through a glass darkly. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know, even as also I am known. And that's from 1 Corinthians 13:12. Then face to face. In Zen, we talk about the original face, seeing the original face, which I believe is the same thing. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. For now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. Time passes, all is evanescent, but the moment lasts forever. Live in the moment, that beauty that's frozen in time, just feel it. That beauty that's frozen in time, it can't be touched by anything. It's manifest in many ways in nature. Like the moment you heard the skylark sing as it soared into the heavens. The moment you saw the first flowers of spring, or held your breath at sunset, or perhaps when you looked into someone's eyes and knew there was so much more than the world would have us believe. See everyone through the eyes of spirit, This is how we find love and compassion for all. There are no veils when our hearts open to beauty and to the light that is a silent alchemy in our lives. Such a vision heals the benumbed soul and leads us into a vision that is purely heart-centered. H.P. Blavatsky, in an article 1888, writes, "In a garden of sunflowers, every flower turns towards the light. Why not so with us? Indeed, why not so? Think of ourselves as flowers in this beautiful garden of life. Why not turn towards the light? Because we are as much part of nature as a tree or a flower, but on a higher level. We are unfolding like a flower into the light of our true nature to awaken to what is truly beautiful and eternal. Earthly beauties are transient, but the source of beauty is eternal, and the soul knows what is akin to that beauty and flies to it. It also knows what is against that beauty, that darkens that beauty, and retreats from it. That's the way we progress, deeper and deeper into the beauty, until eventually we transcend all things, even beauty. But until then, beauty is a stairway from physical beauty through to the highest, purest, impersonal beauty, spiritual beauty. Now, there was a book written called The Secret Rose Garden by Sheikh Mahood Shebestari. I'm very much into nature and flowers and gardens and rose gardens. And I love the film and the book, The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett, I believe. And I think she was very much into spiritual things as well. She wrote another book called Little Princess, which had a lot of spiritual references in it. But I hope I've got the right author. If not, someone will tell me, I'm sure. So the Secret Rose Garden has this poem in it. The past has flown away. The coming month and year do not exist. Ours only is the present's tiny point. Time is but a fancied dot, ever moving on, which you have called a flowing river stream. I am alone in a wide desert, listening to the echo of strange noises. You are asleep, and your vision is a dream. All you are seeing is a mirage. When you wake up on the morn of the last day, you will know all this to be fancy's illusion. When you have ceased to see double, earth and heaven will become transformed. When the real sun unveils his face to you, the moon, the stars, and Venus will disappear. If a ray shines on the hard rock, like wool of many colours, it drops to pieces. The world is an imaginary figure, a diffused shadow of the infinite. One breath created the worlds of command and all living things. The imagination produces phenomenal objects which have no real existence. So this world has no substantial reality, but exists as a shadowy pageant or a play. All is pervaded by absolute being in its utter perfection. There are many numbers, but only one is counted. The real process of healing involves a change in the way we see the world and relate to our fellow beings and our fellow creatures, seeing beyond the masks, as said before. In society, all is rush, but we need to slow down. The last words of William Quan Judge, one of the founders of the Theosophical Society, were reported to be, "There should be calmness, hold fast, go slow." And I wrote an article and made a talk about based on that go slow. And this is from it, some excerpts from it. William Henry Davis writes in his poem on leisure, "What is this life, if full of care? We have no time to stand and stir, no time to stand beneath the boughs, and stir as long as sheep or cows, no time to see when woods we pass, where squirrels hide their nuts in grass, no time to see in broad daylight, streams full of stars like skies at night, no time to turn at beauty's glance, and watch her feet, how they can dance, no time to wait till her mouth can enrich that smile her eyes began. A poor life this, if full of care, we have no time to stand and stir. We have no time to stand and stir." Modern ideas of leisure are to indulge in some sporting activity, or watch TV, or read a book, or go on an adventure holiday, or surf the internet, etc. Not many want to simply stand and stir, as this is regarded as wasting time. But of course, we mustn't stand and stare at other people. They may get a bit annoyed at that. It's something to do with nature. But if we slow our lives down, if we cultivate calmness, and if we hold fast, the clouds that obscured the sun of our understanding will dissipate in time. The non-essentials will clear the way for those deeper truths that reveal to us the wonder of being alive upon this planet. How beautiful indeed to notice that fugitive flower in the hedgerow turning towards the light of the sun, or hear the sound of the cricket singing amidst the long grass in the summer heat, or to gaze long into the blue sky and to watch cloud shadows scuttle across meadowlands. These things are often missed by those engrossed in thought or staring at their mobile phones or tablets. But there is something that started in Japan known as Shinrin-yoku, if I pronounced it right, a visit to the forest for relaxation and to improve one's health. And it means forest bathing, to go out into the woods and feel the positive vibes there while walking mindfully and slowly. So for a few moments, I want us to meditate. I'll put this picture up. Imagine oneself walking through the forest, calmly, quietly, by oneself, meditating, silent in mind, at peace, totally at peace, relaxed, calm. Everything that's gone before has disappeared. There's only this moment, this very moment. Look at the beauty of the sun, grass dappled with sunlight. And just breathe gently, breathe in the beautiful air and relax, be at peace. If we calm our minds, we become aware of many things that are invisible to us at the moment. Of course, if we have demanding jobs or a family to look after, we have to keep on our toes and manage our affairs effectively. And it is important to exercise our bodies as well as our minds. There's nothing wrong in enjoying entertainment of the right kind. We must also make room to slow down. If we do, we alter our focus and the world changes for a while. Let us walk in a leisurely manner and with a calm mind. Max Heermann, in the poem Desiderata, writes, "Go placidly amid the noise, and remember what peace there may be in silence. Go placidly amidst the noise, and remember what peace there may be in silence." What peace there may be in silence. Of course, we all know of the book, The Voice of the Silence, about which, as I said earlier, translated by H.P. Blavatsky. The Voice of the Silence is very pregnant with meaning. And the Theosophical Masters also state, amongst other things, silence for certain periods of time to enable nature herself, up I go, to speak to him or her who comes to her for information. Silence for certain periods of time to enable nature herself to speak to him or her who comes to her for information. Silence for certain periods of time. Silence of the tongue and silence of the mind, so that not only can we hear the gentlest sounds of nature, but also the promptings of the spirit in us. If we become the eye of the storm that surrounds us, it's almost like sitting high up on a hilltop or a building like this and looking down at all the cacophony. Although I don't like heights, so definitely wouldn't be sitting there. But it's a state of mind. Even our footsteps through the woodlands mask so much. It is not until we stand still that we become aware of many subtle sights and sounds that would have otherwise been missed. Very important point. I tend to walk through the woods and I can hear my feet trump, plump, plump. But when I stand still, lots of sounds come into being that my footsteps were drowning. It's nice just to, as I said earlier, to stand and stir. Or stand, not even to stir, just stand, be quiet, be at peace. So many of us go into the countryside with friends and talk constantly. There must be, look, even people even look at the phones. There must be time to be quiet and to listen and be alone. The book of nature has so much to impart to us. We walk slowly and mindfully in a crowd that rushes to nowhere, and we actually experience a change in our consciousness and worldview. We become the watcher, always acting from the calm centre that is the same in heat and cold, joy and sorrow, life and death. It's untouched. The spirit is untouched, like it says in the Bhagavad Gita. Fire can't burn it, water can't wet it, the sword can't cleave it, the wind can't dry it. It's beyond all these things. It's our true self. It's who we really are. We can find that centre and nothing can trouble us. As H.P. Blavatsky tells us, immortality is but one's unbroken consciousness. We can do that. We can go into a city like this and we can slow our consciousness down. So we become like the centre of the storm. We can see everything whirling around us, all the people, the traffic. We can be that calm centre, the watcher. We hear in Theosophy about the silent watcher, which is a very advanced high being. But also we have our silent watcher, which is our higher self. silent watcher. So our divine self, our spiritual nature, as above, so below. Slowing down then gives us a chance to take stock of any situation. We see more, we take more in, we are aware of more. Things that may have flashed past our mind now become visible, as Okakura Kakuso writes in his book of Tea, one of my favourite books. I just love that book. Meanwhile, let us have a sip of tea. The afternoon glow is brightening the bamboos. The fountains are bubbling with delight. The soughing of the pines is heard in our kettle. Let us dream of evanescence and linger in the beautiful foolishness of things. So let's do that. Why don't we do that just for a few moments? Let's linger in that beautiful foolishness of things. Let's do it. Meanwhile, let us have a sip of tea. The afternoon glow is brightening the bamboos. The fountains are bubbling with delight. The soughing of the pines is heard in our kettle. Let us dream of evanescence and linger in the beautiful foolishness of things. I could linger in that beautiful foolishness forever. Because we take life too seriously. There are many tragic things, of course, in the world. And if we clear our lives of all the trivialities that haunt us, we may see them from the perspective of our eternal self and see how foolish are most of our worries. Evanescence is a dream. We are immortal beings in reality, though our shadow selves come and go like bubbles in a stream or flash of lightning in a cloud. The Masters write about the great orphan humanity, and there's a poignancy to that. Like the Japanese concept of mono no aware, the pathos of things, a melancholic appreciation of the transiency of existence, the beauty to be found amidst the transience of life. So we've lost our contact with our spiritual nature, and this creates this illusion of separateness that the voice of the silence describes as a great dire heresy. It explains why people in general seem so antagonistic, so kind of angry all the time. There's so much anger in the world, so much dissension, so much cruelty. To be truly human, we need to be humane. I think that's very important. To be truly human, we need to be humane. Humane. Any religion or way of thought that entertains any kind of violence towards man or beast, I'm not just talking about physical violence, I'm talking about mental violence, moral violence, is invalid and useless. as it is promoting separateness. The reason that the Theosophical Society came into being was to show us that there is a reality beyond the illusion of separateness, and that all imagined differences are man-made due to our divorce from the Spirit. So we have to try and see the good in others. And it's a really good exercise to try to see others as spiritual beings on a human journey and to try to understand their point of view. Now, I talk in most of my talks about the Bodhisattva never despise from the Lotus Sutra. The Bodhisattva never despise lived in a time when spirituality was in the decline. People were living dissolute lives. And he was trying to preach the truth, to teach the truth. And people were antagonistic to him. They would throw things at him. They would insult him. They would knock him down even physically. But he would always get up and say, I will never despise you because you will all be Buddhas someday. So he could see the divinity in people. And he loved people. I remember HPB saying, someone saying to HPB, because of what people have done to you, how can you still entertain them? And she said, my dear, if you could see what I see, you would feel the same. You would love them too. Now that's kind of very, very paraphrased. It's just a rough idea of what she said, because I'm doing it spontaneously without any reference. And I know it was something that's the general essence of what she said. If you could see what I see, then you would love them too, no matter what they do to you. Because if someone does what you regard as evil, then sending them angry thoughts will only fuel the anger in them. And that is common sense. So as the Buddha says, hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. That is the eternal law. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. And Jesus, of course, says, love your enemies and bless those that curse you. Now, in countries that purport to be Christian, how many of them follow that rule? To love your enemies and bless those that curse you. Most of Europe is said to be Christian. How many wars have been waged in Europe? First World War, Second World War, Spanish Civil War, war that goes on now between Russia and the Ukraine. How is that fall and love your enemies and bless those that curse you? Many people choose to follow the Old Testament, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But Jesus in the New Testament said, it says in the Old Testament, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, love your enemies, etc. So Christians actually don't follow or listen to what Jesus said. Of course, this is not easy, but who said that the spiritual path was easy? When we start to work on ourselves seriously, we have to face much that is unpleasant that may come to the surface. But you see, we have made our minds so complicated by intellectualizing everything. Everything has to be complex in this society. And that's a trait of the lower mind. It likes complication. But complication shuts out the light of the spirit. We have to return to innocence. We have to become as little children to enter the kingdom of heaven. And that's very important. We have to become childlike, not childish, childlike, innocent. That's the only way that we can attune ourselves to the divinity within. So Jesus and Gautama Buddha and many others before and since emphasize in their teachings that we should learn to love one another based on the fact that we share the same spirit. This is the only way and no other that we can actualize a universal brotherhood and sisterhood of humanity, regardless of race, creed, sex, caste, and colour. Later, this universal brotherhood was changed to the nucleus of a universal brotherhood. And as theosophical students striving to become theosophists someday, perhaps, the least we can do is to try to live up to that and show the world how people of different cultures can live together based upon the oneness of all things. It's a great opportunity to show people what a true brotherhood is, a universal brotherhood and sisterhood is. But even theosophists argue against each other, or theosophical students argue against each other. I don't think theosophists would. If a person's reached the state of being a theosophist, as HPB says, to join the Theosophical Society and to become a theosophist are two very different things. So H.P. Blavatsky says in an article, The Beacon Light of Truth, in La Revue Théosophique, May 1889, and from the Theosophist, July, August, and September 1889. She says, I say it again, it is only theosophy well understood that can save the world from despair by reproducing social and religious reform, a task once before accomplished in history by Gautama the Buddha, a peaceful reform, without one drop of blood spilt, each one remaining in the faith of his fathers, if he so chooses. To do this, he or she will only have to reject the parasitic plants of human fabrication, which at the present moment are choking all religions and churches in the world. Let him accept but the essence, which is the same in all. That is to say, the spirit which gives life to man in whom it resides and renders him immortal. Renders him immortal. Let every man inclined to go on to find his ideal, a star before him to guide him. Let him follow it without ever deviating from his path, and he is almost certain to reach the beacon light of life, the truth, no matter whether he seeks for and finds it at the bottom of a cradle or of a well. So let's take that to heart and go about making it a living reality in all our lives. I'd like to finish with a poem of mine. I neglected to put that up. So I'll leave you for a few moments to look over that again, meditate upon it. So let's take that to heart and go about making it a living reality in all our lives. So the last thing I want to do before I finish is recite a poem of mine. I don't tend to write rhyming poetry very much. I'd rather write poetry that doesn't rhyme. It's more spiritual, it's more free. I do occasionally write rhyming poetry. The Master KH says in one of his letters that the true seer is always a poet. The true seer is always a poet. And if you look at all the great world scriptures, They're all written in poetry. The Dhammapada, Voice of the Silence, Buddhist Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, works of people like Rumi, Kabir, Hafiz. They're all written in poetry because poetry is one step up from prose, from writing it in prose. Although you can write prose in a way that's very poetic as well, but then it's more like poetry or prose poetry. So I wrote this poem really about loving one another. A sensitive heart looks out, knows that war never brings peace. A quiet heart will understand that only love will bring release. Are we children of the insane, or are we followers of the light? Do we know how much pain is caused by this endless fight? If beauty is our guide and compassion leads the way, how can we hurt one another and take all hope away? We are brothers and sisters alike. We share the same searching soul. We need to feel another's sorrow. We need to make them feel whole. One spirit unites us all right now. One path we all must tread. Forget all that tries to divide us, and let's love one another instead. Let's love one another instead. So I send my love to all of you, and we must always hope for a better future, for things to get better. There are a lot of positive trends in the world, many positive trends. It seems very dark. We're in the age of Kali. Even within the age of Kali, there are wheels within wheels. It won't all be darkness. We can do what we can to keep the light burning, keep the light in our hearts, to be kind, to be understanding, to be gentle, to live in the light of the Spirit and share that light with others, not to hide it under a bushel. Bring that light out and try to enlighten the world. Try to do our little bit. It may only be a tiny little bit, but do what we can to make the world a better place. To be humane, to be kind, to be understanding, as I've said, to be loving beyond everything. See the divinity in others, see the good in others. That's very, very important, to see the good in other people. And never despair of humanity. Never despair of humanity. Om Shanti, 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 peace, peace, peace. Peace on earth and goodwill to all beings. And I'll see you all very, very soon.